Our next speaker is Nick Moran, who's originally from Waterbury, Vermont, and is a junior studying philosophy and political science. If you know Nick, you know he's a man of many talents. He's completed an Ironman, he does research on political violence, and he puts out more Substack articles than I could ever keep up with. Nick's talk explores how the way we attend to the world shapes the world we actually live in. Drawing from neuroscience, philosophy, and cultural critique, Moran's talk argues that attention is not just a matter of focus, it is the foundation of meaning, love, and the moral life itself. Please join me in welcoming Nick Moran and his talk, Morality of Attention. All right. Thank you, Nico. Everybody hear me? Yeah. You're good? All right. You're having an intense discussion with somebody you love. And then you feel it. Your phone buzzes. It's only for a second. But at that moment, your attention splits, and they can feel it. A soldier looks up at a hill. Now, command says, take the objective point. Acceptable casualties, 40%. That hill, ladies and gentlemen, is no longer earth and grass. But in fact, it has been transformed into the objective point. And the people that will die taking that hill are no longer people, they're casualties, acceptable ones. You're stuck in traffic, a more common example for our non-military friends in the audience. The car in front of you isn't moving. Do you see a person in there, perhaps having the worst day of their year? Or do you see an obstacle, something to honk at, to swear at, to flip off? Oops. Now, I'll give you one more example. You're walking through Boston Commons, and you see a homeless person. But do you see them? Or do you see a category, the homeless, part of the faceless many, somebody to walk around, just a problem for policy to solve, part of the urban backdrop? Now, fundamentally, all of these instances come down to attention. And while much has been made today of our lack of attention spans and how it's getting worse every year, that barely scratches the surface of the complexity and importance of attention. Because, in the words of Oxford neuroscientist Ian McGilchrist, the world we attend to is the world that we inhabit. Now, that means that the examples I gave you are not just about focus, but instead, they constitute fundamentally different ways of existing in the world. Now, this is a very interesting thing because that would seem to suggest that attention itself has a kind of built-in valuation process to it. To give something your attention is to grant it reality and significance. To deny those things, to withhold your attention, does the opposite. We are constantly choosing about what gets to be real. This makes sense. I mean, when I look here, I can't look there. When I look at you, right, the rest of the audience is obscured to me, naturally. I attend to this, I obscure that. When I attend to my partner's words when we're having that discussion as meaningful, rather than as noise competing with the notification, that's a choice about what holds value. Or when I see a homeless person as a human being with their own set of lived experiences, that is a choice about what constitutes a worthy existence. Now, this raises an uncomfortable question. What then happens if we can no longer determine what we give our attention to? What happens if our attention is hijacked by external sources? What I want to argue today is three main points. First, I'm going to give you the science of attention, how it works, why attending to different things in different ways actually constitutes an entirely different world. Two, I want to diagnose how we got here. How exactly did our attention get colonialized? Colonized, it's not a word. And
Third, I want to offer a refresh, a renewal. How do we get back to what I'm going to call right attention? All right, so let's start with the science. So the science of attention really starts with the way our brain is divided. It's divided into two hemispheres, the left and the right. I'm sure you've all heard this before. But this isn't going to be a kind of pop psychology talk about, oh, the left brain is logical, the right brain's creative. That's very much an oversimplification of what's going on. What's actually going on is much more interesting. And as Oxford neuroscientist Ian McGilchrist researched, it's far more interesting, and it's also far more of a struggle and a difficulty that we're going to have to work through as a society. So, as I said, our brain is divided into two hemispheres. The left hemisphere pays narrow-focused attention. Imagine a bird looking for prey. It's looking for a worm, perhaps, right? And it's listening, it's very attentive, and it's going to pluck at the ground and try to get that worm. Now, the right hemisphere pays broad and receptive attention. Think of that same bird paying attention to everything around it. It's watching out for predators, perhaps. It's watching out for other birds that are going to go try to take its worm. It's even watching out for the little subtleties in the way the wind is moving so it can kind of navigate itself as it flies. Now, the problem comes in not because we have two different hemispheres. The problem comes in because we've built an entire society that privileges the left hemisphere almost entirely and excludes the right. To show you why this is so important, I'll give you an example. Think of a child when they first see a cat, perhaps, right? When they see a cat for the first time, they might have an idea of a dog. So they'll point at the cat and they'll say, doggy. The reason for this is because children and people in general, we actually use our left brain to create useful categories for things. We build a model, right? So when it sees the cat, it goes doggy because it has this idea of a four-legged furry animal. Now, over time, those distinctions between those categories get better and better. And so eventually the child can go, that's a dog, that's a cat, that's a fox. It gets very easy. But initially, the model is very crude. One thing that never changes, though, is the fact that the left hemisphere is always only working from a model. And that is where the problem comes in. Because what can happen is the left hemisphere can mistake the model of the world for the world itself. It can mistake a map with the territory. And this becomes a large issue. It reduces everything to its representation. Think about the phenomenon of love, for example. To the left hemisphere, love is not the irreducible encounter of meeting another person in their fullness, but rather, love becomes a chemical formula, nothing but the release of oxytocin. It's just a chemical process. Or another example would be the prophetic vision. Think of Moses in the burning bush, or Paul in the desert. Those would no longer be called prophetic visions. To the left hemisphere, that is nothing but a hallucination. And again, these might seem like small, shallow semantic differences, but they actually constitute, again, entirely different ways of seeing the world. Now, the right hemisphere, on the other side, quite literally on the other side, it doesn't pay attention in that way. As we established, it's receptive. And so it can actually attend to reality as it is. To the right hemisphere, a cat is not just the category cat. It is this singular furry little creature, not an instance of the category cat. And again, it's a small semantic difference, but it means the world when we're talking about attention. So, what I want you to do is just shout out what you guys see here. This is going to help demonstrate the difference between the hemispheres. What does everybody see? Triangle. Okay. Those of you who said triangle, your right brain was very active. Those of you who said Pac-Man, your left hemisphere. All right, the next image. Faces. Okay, I heard faces and bases. Now, those of you who saw faces, right hemisphere. Those of you who saw the base, left hemisphere. And you might be able to switch in between the two. Now, one more image. This one's the most difficult. What do we see? Dog. Dog. What type of dog? Dalmatian? Okay, good. Are some people not seeing anything? Nobody's seeing it. This is very interesting. Okay. Well, what you just experienced, now, what you guys just experienced is a very interesting effect. Those of you who saw the triangle, who saw the faces, and who saw the dog, specifically the Dalmatian, had more right hemisphere activity going on. And you were able to perceive and be receptive to the entire context of the image. Those of you who just saw black dots, Pac-Man, and a vase, fortunately, there might be some work to be done. All right. So, the diagnosis, it's now clear we have two forms of attention that we pay to the world. Both are good, both are valuable, and again, the problem, though, is that our civilization only preferences one to the other. So, and I mean, we can think about this in the way that we go around the world. Think about how we deal with ambiguity and nuance now, to kind of cite Peter's talk a little bit. Think about how we deal with political discourse. Where in the past, people might have been able to hold contradictory views to their friends and be able to have a good conversation, really sit in that nuance, kind of let it work itself out. Today, we're very quick to collapse the distinction and just put everything into neat categories. That's what we like to do. If I hear an opinion that I don't like, I can easily just point and go, fascist. Or, on the other hand, I could point and I could go, no, I'm not going to listen, you're too woke. With Antifa, perhaps. Now, again, that's just an inability of our left hemisphere to sit with nuance. Instead, we would rather just eliminate it entirely. Or I'll give you another example. What about hiking? This is kind of a fun one for some of you fitness enthusiasts out there. It's my dad making it look easy on Mount Katahdin. Now, hiking is what used to be an experience with nature. You'd go out, you would have an experience with the sublime, right? Well, nowadays it's not that. It's actually just kind of a proving ground for biometrics. We can think about our VO2 metrics, right? We can think about, what was my elevation gain? How many steps did I get in? How many calories did I burn? You know? And then I track it all on my Garmin, or I track it on my Whoop. And I post it on Strava too, because that wasn't enough already. And then when I get home, I go to bed early for my recovery score. Now again, these might seem like small distinctions, but this is what happens when we replace the world for a model, okay? Now, the thing is, the roots of this problem actually don't start with the invention of the iPhone or with Strava stats. They go much further back, much further back. Now, luckily, we have mostly a BC crowd in here tonight, and so hopefully some of you have taken perspectives and are familiar with the French philosopher René Descartes. Can anybody tell me what famous phrase René Descartes said? Anybody? Yes?
I think therefore I am.
Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Now with this statement, René Descartes essentially split the world in two. What he's saying is that there is a mind in here, separate from the world of objects out there. And I can know things about those objects and manipulate them. But essentially, I am the subject, and everything else is the object. Or for you all in the crowd, you are the subjects. Perhaps I'm the object right now. But more generally, the world is made up of objects, right? This is the Cartesian model. It's reducing everything to that distinction. Now, I have to ask you though, what if this way of seeing is actually flawed? Yes, it seems like that's how we perceive the world. That's how it feels on our day-to-day basis. But what if that's not actually the case? What if that is just one belief about how we exist in the world? Ian McGilchrist shows us that even this distinction is a left hemispheric way of seeing the world. It's replacing the territory for the map. Now, luckily, there have been thinkers throughout history who have been able to see through this. A famous one that I'm going to mention is the philosopher Martin Heidegger. Now, he was able to see through this, but before we get to him, I should say that this whole idea of I think, therefore I am, therefore subject can know object, this is the basis behind our modern science. For maybe none of you have considered this, but this is how we come to know things about the world based off of science. Now, interestingly enough, the scientific method cannot actually be proven to be true by using the scientific method. So the very thing that is supposed to help us know truth cannot use its own measure to discover truth. So Heidegger saw through that. And what he famously said is he said, we're not detached observers looking out at reality. We're already embedded within it. He said, we are always already in the world. So our place in the world isn't that of the subject. It's that of someone inhabiting that world. I'm going to give an example to better illustrate this point. So, when I see a hammer, for example, I don't see the theoretical properties of the hammer. I don't see its weight and its dimensions and the materials that it's made out of. I see a tool, an instrument, and a thing that I can use to do the task of hammering, which of course points to the existence of nails. And the existence of nails, of course, points to the existence of the art of woodworking, which of course also points to the existence of construction. So what is this telling us? This is telling us that the way we come to know the world is not through truth propositions, but rather it's about the meaningful connection between things, right? And our connection to those things. The Greeks have a word that might help us better understand this process. The word is aletheia, and it means unconcealment. The idea behind it is that when we know something, it's really when we let things be as they are, and we pay the right kind of attention to them, that they then reveal themselves to us. It's not something that we can just grasp at. It's not something that we can just predict, but rather it's when we pay the right kind of attention, we receive those things, right? So what does this all tell us? To me, this tells us that we've all had this thought that, we can't believe in religion, or we can't believe in the spiritual. We can only believe in the things that can be observed by science. But the fact that science itself is based off of something that cannot be proven should tell us that the spiritual does not get disproven, it gets reduced. It should tell us that the sacred is not just some neurological glitch, but something that could very well be out there if we pay the right type of attention to it. So this is really the roots of the era we now find ourselves in. This is the roots of the left hemispheric problem that we have. Now, it's time that we move on to some solutions. This is the refresh. So it's clear now that our brain has two hemispheres. It's also clear that attention itself has an ethical dimension to it because we're always choosing what gets to be real. And thirdly, it's clear that we're stuck inside of our left hemisphere in a very kind of rough way that just reduces all of reality to that which can be proven by science and that which can be seen. Okay? So, for the refresh, I want to offer a few steps. The first is create stillness. And I don't mean create stillness so that we can be more productive, but rather, I mean create stillness as a moral space. Walk without your phone. Don't listen to podcasts when you're cooking in the kitchen. This is very difficult for me to do, but I'm trying. My roommates know. Yes, but and this is going to create the ability to us to actually receive truth from the world, to receive things that we never would have known if we hadn't been distracted the entire time. The second thing that we should do is we have to replace irony with sincerity. I think it's very clear that we live in what you might call a it's not that deep bro culture. It's very obvious. How many times have you poured yourself out to one of your friends? Let me just go, dude, you're thinking about it too much. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. You want to know why? Because the depth you were expressing doesn't fit into a left hemisphere category. That doesn't mean it's not that deep. It probably is that deep. I would encourage you to explore that a little bit more. And it's really hard. It's very, very difficult not to be ironic. I mean, meme culture really enforces this too, especially for all of my Gen Z audience. But irony is bad because it means keeping reality at arm's length. It means not engaging with how you feel, with your own experience of the world. And if science can't be proven to be any more true about the world than experience, then your experience is something valuable that you should actually listen to. And the way you feel is something that you should express and follow to a certain extent. Now, the next one, seek what resists consumption. This is a very difficult one for us today as well. How many times do we just go about the world trying to gain as many resume points as possible? I think Danny's speech alluded to that in a good way earlier. Right. But it's not just that. I mean, the left brain is constantly trying to possess things about the world. It's trying to manipulate them. It's trying to instrumentalize them. Travel today is very much less about just getting a taste of the world, getting a sense of adventure. It's more about collecting infinity stones. Oh, I've been to Africa. I've been to, Alaska. I've been to Southeast Asia. I don't know how else you can explain the term daddle without this kind of left hemispheric, I have to collect them all kind of mentality, right? It's such a ridiculous concept, but that's the truth. So what I would recommend is when you view art, don't view it as entertainment, but view it as a chance to really receive truth. Sit with a piece of art, like this stock image, sit with this piece of art, like this stock image for 30 minutes and see what reveals itself to you. Read poetry in the woods like Teddy Roosevelt. Scream at a birch tree while you're reading Keats. It's really not that important. It's just about letting it be what it is, all right? Now, next, attend to others without reduction. This is probably the most difficult thing, because as we've said, the left hemisphere is constantly trying to instrumentalize things in its orbit, right? So we often don't actually attend to other people as beings that we can't fully grasp and understand, but instead, we attend to other beings as what they can do for us. And more common than that, we attend to them as just other characters in our personal narrative. I'll give another social phenomenon I find interesting. How else can we explain the idea of having a main character moment? How many times have you heard this? People go around, oh, I'm feeling like the main character today. That's coming from a left hemispheric idea that we actually are. We're the subject. You all are the objects. I am on stage right now. I am the main character. But this is not the case. This is not the case. And so what that means is that you have to really look at people in a way that doesn't reduce them, Listen to them without planning your response. Let them be incalculable to you. Just let them present themselves to you and see what happens. It's very powerful what can happen here. And this brings me to the final point of this spiel. And that is the words of Simone Weil. She famously said, attention, taken to its highest degree, is the same thing as prayer. It's kind of a confusing statement. What does she mean by that, right? What does she mean? Well, she means that when we're attending to things in a true, unreductive, but receptive manner, we are essentially praying. When I'm having a conversation with a friend and really just absorbed in it and getting all of their thoughts and really experiencing them, I'm praying. I'm loving them. And this is really the heart of what's happened. This is the heart of what has gone wrong. We are no longer attending in this way. We're no longer attending in a loving way. We think attention is just about focus, but it's not. It's fundamentally not. And so, if there's anything I want you to take away from my talk, it's this idea, that attention itself is a moral act, okay? It is a moral act. You are constantly valuing certain things and not others, okay? And not just that, it's the backbone, it's the foundation of love itself, okay? This is the real era of modernity. So what does this mean? What does this mean? This means that we have to start paying a very new kind of attention in our day-to-day lives. It means that we have to start seeing people as they actually are, experiencing art not as entertainment, viewing the world not as a bunch of natural resources to be extracted, not as a proving ground for our Strava stats, but actually as an incredible, irreducible place that we can hardly understand. Science thinks it can, but it only thinks it can. It doesn't know. It can't. And so this is why attention is the final frontier for human freedom. Because if you can't choose what you attend to, if you can't look at something and say, this has meaning for these reasons, then you are not free. You are just attending to an abstraction, to a left hemisphere abstraction. You might as well be walking on Mars, seriously. And so, what do we gain back when we form our attention in the correct way? Well, we gain back everything. You recover the world, you recover meaning, you recover the sacred, and you recover your humanity. Thank you.